The information provided on this podcast is for general informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your qualified health provider with any questions you may have. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast. Reliance on any information provided here is solely at your own risk.
Welcome. This is Birth, Baby. Your hosts are Sierra Morgan and Samantha Kelly. Sierra is a birth doula, hypnobirthing educator, and pediatric sleep consultant.
Samantha is a birth doula, childbirth educator, and lactation counselor. Join us as we guide you through your options for your pregnancy, birth, and postpartum journey. Thank you to our listeners for your continued support. If you enjoy our content, please be sure to like, follow, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. This helps us gain visibility to other people that could benefit from listening in.
Hello, everyone. We are excited to be back with Brittany as she tells us about her next two babies. So if you didn't listen to last week's episode, make sure you go back and listen to that so that you can get the first story. And then we're going to hear about her next two babies, which I got to be a part of as her doula. So I'm excited to talk about this. It'll be fun.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So we left off with postpartum with your first baby, which was a journey worth writing a book about. It was just crazy. And then let's talk about baby number two. What did that look like for you when you were pregnant and that birth? What were you kind of planning, knowing that you had a C-section last time?
Yeah. So, well, first of all, we originally didn't know if we wanted any more kids because of the first, but as she got older and it was fun. And probably around 18 months, we hit just a really good patch. So we decided we'd try again and just hope for the best and see if we would never have kids again after that, if it was bad. So when I was first pregnant, I went into my first appointment and my OB had said, you're a good candidate for a VBAC, because I never went into labor with my first. So he said, you're a good candidate for a VBAC. I support a VBAC. I also support another C-section. I think it just depends how many kids you want to have. If you only want 2 or 3, I would maybe just do a C-section. So just start to think about that. And I had asked him, I remember asking him, if it was your wife, what would you recommend she did if she were me? And he just said, I'd probably have her just do a C-section. It's easier to plan. We don't know that your body can go through labor. So it's just easier to just do a C-section. So I said, okay, well, recovery from a C-section is pretty difficult. I remember not being able to sit up very well in bed. And I just couldn't imagine carrying my now chunky toddler around, who's my world. I couldn't imagine not being able to do that for her. So I kind of started to look into a VBAC. And then obviously you were my friend at the time, and learning about VBACs and about the fact that some doctors just kind of choose the C-sections because it's easier. And that really encouraged me to just do some research, and everything I looked into. And when we'd talk, I guess I just felt why don't I just try? Throughout my pregnancy, I had decided I really don't want a C-section. We're going to do everything we can. But when I got to the end, it was October in Texas, and it was hot.
So it was hot.
And I mean, it had been hot my whole pregnancy, because I got pregnant in January, February, I think I found out I was pregnant. And then March, it gets hot, and then it never cools down again. Mm-hmm. So I was miserable. And, we're chasing around our toddler at the pumpkin patch. And so finally, as I'm going in and I'm 36, 37 weeks, he's you're not dilated. Your baby is head down though. So that was good. But he's you're not dilated. I don't know. And every week I was should I just schedule a C-section? It it would be easier to plan care for my daughter. And I almost did. He told me, I'll give you a date. You can come in 39 weeks. Well, I hit 39 weeks and I'm like, okay, I'm not ready yet, but I'm getting pretty ready to just schedule a C-section. And Sam, you told me like, trust me, you'll be thankful. Like it's a couple days worth of misery for a whole lot easier recovery. And I'm really glad I did. It all worked out really well. I was stressed about my daughter and like when I would leave her, making sure that someone was there for me to leave her with.
And this pregnancy wasn't as easy for you either, because you were miserable at the end there, but you also had like an irritable cervix. So you were contracting just a lot and also chasing a toddler. So it wasn't just like, I'm ready to be done. It was like, this is actually way more difficult than my first pregnancy was. And I don't know if it's worth it right now.
Yes, that's true. I had a lot of prodromal labor, probably like 34, well, maybe 32 weeks. Like it started pretty early on.
Early.
And I remember, I think it was probably also, I wasn't drinking enough because I was hot and sweating. But I remember like multiple times where I would text you and you would say like, go get in the bath, try to relax. And I would have timeable contractions. Then I'd go to bed and I'd wake up the next day like, oh, I guess they went away. But every time I do that, I would think like, I'm going to get woken up for contractions. I'm going to have this baby tonight. Which was stressful because we didn't have family in town too. So I think there were just a lot of like mental parts to it that were exhausting me as well, like physically, mentally. But overall, I didn't schedule the C-section. I think at one point I had told him like at 31 weeks or 41 weeks, I'll get a C-section. So I think he had like tentatively put me on the books. But I hit my due date and I think that was like the worst day ever. I was so mad that I hit my due date, which everybody does. Most people do, right?
Yeah.
And I was so mad. I was like, I should have had this baby 3 weeks ago.
You'd never been pregnant that long. You were pregnant 3 weeks longer. And
yes.
Yeah.
And I remember every day I was like, this is the longest I've ever been pregnant. Now this is the longest I've ever been pregnant. Yep. But so the night of so I was doing a lot of the things that are supposed to help, right? Like the mile circuit, curb walking. I was eating pineapple. I went and got like eggplant parmesan and ate that. So it was the day after my due date. I was basically ready to take castor oil. So I went to the store, bought castor oil. My doctor did not recommend this, by the way. He said, I don't know. I don't know much about that. Maybe don't do it. But I was really desperate. So I got it and I was like, maybe I won't take it right now. And so what we had done is had me like rub it on my belly. And I don't necessarily think that like was what did it for me, but I just remember like I rubbed it on my belly that night. I went to sleep. And then I woke up at midnight, right at midnight. And I remember laying down and I was like so mad because I had had contractions the night before a little bit. And I kind of had thought like, maybe this is it. And I was laying in bed and I'm like, I don't have any contractions right now. Like, this is so disappointing. I was really hoping I'd wake up to contractions. Got up, went to the bathroom. And as soon as I sat on the toilet, my water broke and it just like gushed into the toilet, which was good. I'm glad I got up and it didn't happen in my bed. So I went and I woke up my husband and I'm like, hey, I think my water just broke. And he's like, you think? And I was like, okay, my water just broke. I know my water just broke. It's dripping down my legs now. But the problem was it was green.
Right.
And that kind of freaked me out because I've already had a bad birth, like scary birth experience. And so I texted you or I called you and I said, hey, my water broke. It's green. And you had said, well, that can be common. Like I already knew that it was common for them to poop in utero. After 40 weeks, my doctor had told me that like once you pass your due date, the chances are higher. It's not that big of a deal, but we just take more precautions basically.
Yeah. We talked about like the difference too. Like, I think we were talking about like, is it like a little bit or is it like green? And
yes,
it's green.
Yes. And it was like deep green.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that also like talking about that, I was nervous, even though I think everything in me was like, this is fine.
Yeah.
I didn't want to risk anything. So I was like, I'm going to head to the hospital. I was starting to get like back cramping a little bit, but no contractions. It also, I think, helped because we had my husband's mom there to watch our daughter. So it kind of felt like a good time to just go overnight. She would wake up and find out that we were gone. She wouldn't have to go through this like emotional thing if we waited till the morning. But when we got to the hospital, my contractions started while we were getting checked in, and they felt so strong. Like they were very painful right off the bat. And I remember as, you know, they got me checked in, they got my blood work going and they got my IV placed. And at one point I was like, I'm feeling a lot of pressure right now already. And one of my friends had recently had a baby very quickly. So I was convinced, I was like, I'm progressing really fast. This is really scary. And like everything in me was like, I'm going to have this baby soon. They checked me and I was at a 2.
Yep.
So I was like, okay, I guess I'm okay. So I did end up getting the epidural pretty soon after that because the contractions were just so painful. And again, I think it's probably dehydrated because they were really close together, like 3 to 5 minutes apart. But then once they got me hooked up, they got me a little bit of fluids. They slowed down.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I feel like that process just, I got really nervous. And at one point I kind of thought like, would it be easier to just schedule a C-section? Cause I'm scared. I'm scared of what's going to happen since my water broke and it was green.
Right.
I remember pretty early on, probably I was like at a 3 or a 4, you came in and started helping. And what's funny is I wanted to make sure to know this. I don't think I would have hired a doula had I not known you. But now looking back, I think that having you there is like what made me have a successful ECV. What made me have a successful VBAC. Because having you there, what you and Trey would do is like every time his heart rate would be looking funny. I think at one point you had said you thought he was sunny side up.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember you guys had like turned me and put a ball in between my legs. And even with the epidural, you guys were able to move me. And every time we changed positions, exactly what you thought was happening would correct itself with my contractions or with his heart rate. And then I would progress further. I think I progressed to about a 6. And now my doctor didn't want to give me Pitocin because I'd had a C-section in the past.
Right.
So when he came in, I was at a 6 and he's like, okay, you're not really progressing as fast as we want you to. I was tired too. And he said, we can get you some Pitocin and probably speed things up. His heart rate, I remember it was kind of like taking little dips, and plummets. So, but it was fine. Like he wasn't worried, but he's like, I think it would be beneficial to give you Pitocin. So we got Pitocin, and then I progressed very quickly after that. I think it was probably like 3 p.m. I got Pitocin. And then around 6:30, I'm getting ready to push. Yeah. I pushed for 30 minutes. And when he came out, the cord was around his neck. Mm-hmm. So I remember my husband didn't get to cut the cord, and then they brought him over to the warming station to like make sure he was okay. And then they brought him over to my chest. And
he was super chunky when he came out. He was like,
yes, he was chunky. He was 8 pounds, 1 ounce. Mm-hmm. My previous baby had been 6 pounds, 6 ounces. So he was a lot bigger than I was expecting him to be. And I mean, having him like placed on my chest too, because I didn't really get that in the middle of the adrenaline of having a baby. I think that was like the most healing, incredible time of my life. Like I remember that so well. I think it was just the best thing ever. And I remember thinking like, this is why people have more babies. This is amazing.
I think you even said that, like, you were like, oh, I could do this again. And Trey and I were like, okay, let's slow down a little bit.
Yeah. In the hospital, I was like, wow, I could do this again, which is so funny because I mean, for so long, I was like, I'm never having another kid. Mm-hmm. But yeah, now, I mean, from that birth experience, I don't think that I would have progressed how I did had you guys not been like moving me. I didn't even know that you could do that. I feel like I was so naive going into it. And now like thinking that I could have done that by myself in my first birth too, like that would have been a whole different story too, if I hadn't had someone there helping me and helping my husband support me too. All he knows is how to like joke around, I think, in the hospital.
He's such a goober. He's like playing on the ball. He's like spinning in circles. We were just having a great old time watching him have a great old time.
I think that's how he copes with stress, by like making jokes.
He's like fixing stuff in the room. Like he's like, oh, the clock isn't working right. I'm just going to fix that. Okay. So yeah. He was great.
I'm sure the nurses appreciated that. They should have given us a discount.
He was so sweet. It was
yeah. But breastfeeding went really well, like right off the bat with him. He latched and it went well. And I felt really confident in breastfeeding, which again was a whole different experience than I had with my first. I was crying in the hospital. It was really hard. We also had stayed in the hospital 5 days previously. This time we only stayed, I think it was like 48 hours total, maybe a teeny bit longer. And yeah, breastfeeding went well. He gained weight quickly. At his 2-week appointment, I think he had already passed his birth weight. He was just the happiest little baby too. He hardly ever cried. And when he did, it was like, cause he was poopy. Mm-hmm. So, and he never really spit up either. So it was a completely different experience. I did though, however, so I had a little bit of a tear from giving birth. Wasn't too bad, but I healed pretty quickly and we were moving. So postpartum, I kind of got back on my feet really quickly. Didn't want my older daughter to feel like we left her or like life changed too much. So I tried to kind of get back into the swing of things with playing with her and running around with her quickly. And I felt good because I felt a lot better than I had expected to. But when I went to my 6-week appointment, I did have a uterine prolapse. So my uterus was basically like hanging down like to the opening of my vagina. And my doctor said there's not much to do about it. You can like tack it up and kind of fix it, but that would have to be when I'm done having babies. So from postpartum, it didn't hurt. It just kind of felt uncomfortable. I had a uterine prolapse as well, after that as well. And I think it was probably because I had gotten back into it too quickly.
Right. Yeah. So totally different experience that time. And then number 3, which was a surprise.
Number 3 was a surprise. We had talked about like, we'll probably have another baby eventually. And I think it was like that month we were probably a couple weeks later, honestly, we were pregnant and it was a surprising time for us. But man, she has been the biggest blessing for us. It has brought like having her, everything about having her just makes me want to have like 100 kids.
She is the best. So what did, end of pregnancy, you had your first one, your C-section, then you had a VBAC. And then with this one, you were like, yeah, I mean, obviously I'm going to just have a VBAC again.
Yeah, there was no question about it. For me, I was like, my body clearly can do it. The experience going home was so much easier, so much different. Like C-section wasn't anywhere on my radar at all. So when I went into my first appointment, the same thing. My doctor's like, do you want a C-section? I feel good about you doing a VBAC again. Or we can do a C-section if you want, but I'm not inducing you. Which again, the same thing. So if you get preeclampsia or something like that, we'll have to talk about it. But didn't have any problems with that stuff in the past. So I was like, no, don't bring it up again. So which I think that was really empowering to be like, no, this is what we're going to do. I'm not going to do a C-section. And I think I felt a lot more confident leading up to it and knowing what my birth experience had been in the past. And then I also remember, like, since I had felt so scared with Hayden, with my second, when I was in labor, something I was trying to prep for is like trying to not feel so scared.
Yeah.
With it coming with Charlotte, with my third, which I was very scared. So, but
it's different.
Yeah. But for her, the pregnancy went well. I think it was difficult. I was really tired, like nauseous for a while, but pregnancy went well. She was measuring just the same as my other two kids size wise. And same as my last pregnancy, I had a lot prodromal labor, probably from like 28 weeks. I was having contractions pretty often. There was one time that around 34 weeks that I thought I could be in labor. But as soon as I got some fluid, that settled down as well. I was really stressed at the end of my pregnancy. My oldest daughter was starting kindergarten. It was also her birthday. And I just I don't know. I think there's something about like bringing another baby into the world where you're like, I don't want this baby to take away from the things that I want my kids, I think they deserve, which was like, I think she deserves me coming to her first day of kindergarten to drop her off. And I really got in my head about that and got really stressed toward the end that every time I'd have contractions, I'm like, I cannot go into labor right now, or I have to go into labor now, or like it's either the next 2 days or not at all for a week. And that was mentally exhausting. I don't know why I let myself do that.
It's really hard to control that outcome. And I remember just like talking about like, it's what's going to happen is going to happen. You cannot control this. And we had so many conversations about that, but it is so hard. Like kindergarten, it's a big move, especially with your first, and especially with Isabel, who is such a big feelings kid that
Yes.
has a lot.
Yes. And a big mama's girl too. Like, and I mean, I think her and and maybe it's just what we went through when she was a baby. We just have this like special connection too. It's like, I also selfishly like didn't want somebody else doing that with her. Like I wanted to do it with her. And so that gave me a lot. What
happened? When did you go into labor?
But well, just as you said, because I remember you told me, you said when your body feels like your body needs to feel safe. So as long as you're stressed, you're probably not going to go into labor. And I was like her birthday, and then her birthday passed and I was like, no, I have to go into labor this week or not until after the first day of kindergarten. So I made it. I dropped her off her first day of kindergarten, picked her up her first day of kindergarten, brought her to her second day. And then when I was in line to pick her up, I was like in the car pickup line by myself in the car on the second day of school. And I'm like in the middle of the pickup line. School just got out and my water broke while I was in the car. And it wasn't like a huge gush. It kind of felt like, I don't know how to explain it. Like when you just start your period and you like weren't necessarily expecting it, like you can like feel it and you're like, oh shoot, I should probably go check. I think I might've gone like started my period. It felt very similar to that. But then like it kept coming out and I was like, did I pee myself? Am I okay?
It's also a possibility.
I'm sorry.
Also a possibility at the end there.
Well, it's like, it very well could have been. I could have, yeah. But again, it kept coming. And so now I'm at this point, I'm sitting and it's hot. So I was wearing athletic shorts. So it's not like it's like absorbing it at all. I'm just like sitting in basically a puddle of the water that had broke. So I go through and I'm trying to act normal. I texted my husband. I'm like, hey, my water just broke. I texted you. I'm like, my water broke in the school pickup line. This is funny. Well, I get home from picking up my daughter and my husband's got his truck turned on. He's got the car seat loaded because I had said, like, will you just like make sure our stuff is together just in case the contractions come fast? Because that's what had happened last time. I'm going to pick up Isabel. I want to just try to be casual about it. So I picked her up and I like just how was school talking to her and we get home and my husband's got like the car turned on, warming or cooling down so it wouldn't be hot for me. He's got the car seat loaded into the car. He's got all of our stuff, which I had lists of things like we needed to still put in last minute items. Like he just grabbed the bags and threw them in the truck. He was ready to like head to the hospital the second I got home. But I mean, I got home and I wasn't even contracting yet. So I stayed home until
different than the first time. The first time your water broke and you're like, I need to go. And this time, I know we had talked about it prenatally, but you were like, I think I want to try to stay home for a while.
Yes. Well, and I think a couple of things played into it too. Is like my water was clear this time. And the other thing was that I had labored for so long in the hospital before that I was like, maybe I'll wait a little bit. But, but before my labor had been from midnight to 6:30 p.m. And so I kind of thought, okay, like give it a couple hours. We'll go to the hospital. I'll be pretty progressed, expecting my labor to be probably a little shorter this time.
Yeah.
That was not the case. So what we ended up doing, which I think I would do things differently now looking back. Like if I were to, I don't know if I'll have another baby, but if I did, I have a whole different plan of action. But we didn't want my kids, they don't do very well, like going to bed if they know we're going to be leaving after bedtime. So we had my mother-in-law there. So we had said, okay, we're going to tell you guys goodbye. And then she's going to go put you guys to bed so they could like have closure that we had left. So we hung out from school after school. We played with them, had dinner, and then said goodbye. And we left, and my contractions still weren't very bad. Like I would have to stop and breathe through them a little bit, but I didn't really want to go to the hospital at this point. But I also didn't feel like I could go home because I didn't want one of my kids to come out of their room and see me and be confused about like what was going on. I just wanted them to be like, Mom went to have the baby. So that was a little difficult to navigate, I think, because we like walked around Target for an hour, just walking circles, and I had an adult diaper on, and I had to go change it in the bathroom because my water was still just leaking. And we went to Lowe's, we went to all the stores around the hospital. And then when all of them were closing, it was probably like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. We kind of were like, we don't really have anything else to do. I don't feel like we can go home. I'm really tired. Maybe if we get checked in, I could take a nap. So we went to the hospital and we got checked in. And my contractions, I mean, they were painful enough to keep me awake. But laying down, I don't think really benefited me because I was having contractions, but I really wasn't progressing. I think I was at like a 2 or a 3 by the morning.
Yeah.
When I got there, I think I was at a 1. Yeah. So it really, I think maybe going home could have been better. Could have maybe rested a little more. But yeah, so I was exhausted. I didn't sleep really at all overnight. And the contractions weren't painful enough to get an epidural at that point either. And then in the morning, I remember you had come in the morning to just kind of check on me and say hi, and ended up staying all day. But my contractions were really irregular at that point. It was like, there would be one that was like 3 minutes apart, then 5 minutes apart. And then it would be like 10 minutes, I'd have another one. So we had done a couple of things. I think I had taken a shower, which felt so good. My hospital had like the monitors that were cordless. So it was nice to be able to go take a shower and not be hooked up to anything. And then we ended up trying pumping, right? I pumped a little bit, and that helped the contractions become more regular for maybe an hour or so.
Right.
And then after that, they kind of tapered off again and like spread back out.
Right.
I remember my OB didn't really think, like when I told him, he had said, here, I can give you Pitocin now. Your labor's not really progressing. We're getting closer to about 24 hours, like it had been, I think, probably 18 hours since my water had broken at that point. So he's like, we're getting closer to 24 hours since your water broke. So, I'm okay with giving you Pitocin at this point. And I had said, well, can I try pumping? And he was like, I don't think it'll help, but sure. And I mean, sure enough, it did. I think it helped. And I did progress. I think the next time they checked me, I was at a 6 or so. But at that point, I was exhausted. So I had decided, okay, give me Pitocin. But I think that's the point that I was like, now I'm scared. Like I'm feeling scared. And so I was like, I just want to go ahead and get the epidural so I can take a nap before I'm pushing. I need to rest before I push. And so I got the Pitocin, I got the epidural pretty shortly after, and I really wasn't that uncomfortable at that point. But the epidural, I mean, it helped. I tried to lay down, but I still couldn't take a nap.
Right.
It's the hospital. So the next time they checked me, I think I was at an 8.
Right.
And it was, I mean, at this point it's 6 p.m. So my water broke at 2 p.m. the day before. It's already been over 24 hours. It's now almost 6 p.m. or maybe 5:30, and I'm at 8. And I felt like a ton of pressure. I felt like I needed to poop. I'm like, hey, I think I need to push now. Like I feel so much pressure. And I remember they checked me. They're like, nope, you're at an 8. And I was like
I'm upset because it felt like you had so long to go.
Yes. Well, and that's because it had been a couple hours at that point since I had been at a 6.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, if it took that long for me to get from a 6 to an 8, how long am I going to have this pressure down here? And like, I guess I wasn't pushing the button for the epidural very often, but I mean, it was painful. It felt like, but it was nice. I laid on my side and you guys like gave me a little bit of counter pressure and helped me breathe through it. I remember like holding on to the side of the bed was like really helping too, just squeezing it. Mm-hmm. But then, I mean, very quickly, I was like, there's no way I'm still at an 8. Can we check? And I remember you were kind of peeking and you were like, yeah, let's have them check. And they came and checked again. And then finally I was ready to push.
It was like, like 30 minutes or something like that. Like it was not hours that we went from 8 to 10.
Yes, it was very quickly. I think it was about 30 minutes because they had just checked me. And I think that we had to kind of push them to check me again because They were like, oh no, she was just at an 8. And I'm like, and I mean, you were like, well, I can see like, it looks like she's progressing a little more than that. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, I feel a lot of pressure. Can you just check? And they're like, oh, turns out you're good. Like you're ready to push. So we had talked about changing like my position. And I think that probably could have helped me at that point, honestly. But I think, again, I was so tired and thinking back, like as a person that's not pregnant, not super swollen, not super big, I'm like, I should have been more active in my labor. I think that would have helped me progress more. But also thinking about like, I felt like a whale, like walking around, like it was so hard to do anything at that point. And so like, I don't know, thinking back, I'm like, it probably could have helped my labor go faster if I had been willing to do more things that like you were saying, do you want to go for a walk? And I'm like, no, I'm just tired. But getting to the point of pushing, I only pushed for about 30 minutes. It didn't feel that difficult. I did have a different doctor. So my doctor had to leave. And so I had a different doctor deliver. And I mean, delivering her was to me incredible. The doctor literally was like sitting on his hands. Mm-hmm. He didn't touch me. And he was just like letting my body do its thing, which is a very different experience than I had with my actual OB, who like tried to stretch me out and stuff and help encourage the baby to come out with my last delivery. This doctor just sat on his hands. And so I started pushing and my baby's head crowned, but then my contractions stopped. Mm-hmm. So her head was, just sitting there. And I remember like feeling the stretching. And I said, I guess that's the ring of fire that I could feel. Because again, I hadn't been pushing the button much for my epidural. I wanted like a little bit of pain control, but I wanted to feel it. But we had to pause there. And I think that actually benefited me a lot because I think it really allowed my body to like stretch out and prepare for actually giving birth. Yeah. And then maybe like 2 contractions after that, I pushed and she was out. I didn't tear at all. I had torn a little before. I didn't tear at all. And she was chunky.
It was huge.
It was huge. And it's so funny because we had no idea. The doctor had just measured her and they're like, oh, she's like, I know it's not that accurate, but they had measured her and she measured just the same as my other 2 kids had. Like, I expected her to be somewhere in between them because I felt like my belly maybe was a little smaller than with my second baby, but bigger than my first. So I expected her to be in the middle. Mm-hmm. No, the nurses were like taking bets on how big she was. I have a picture of the nurse holding her to show her to me. And her face is just like mm-hmm. She is in shock. She's like, this is huge. This baby's so big. And she ended up being 9 pounds, 7 ounces.
Huge baby.
She was so big, and her cheeks were so chunky that her eyes were like little squinty eyes. And she did not look like my other kids coming right out, and which was the biggest surprise to us.
Biggest baby and no tearing.
And no tearing. Yeah. And honestly, it felt so good too. Cause if you would have told me she was as big as she was, and if my doctor knew she was as big as she was, he would have pushed for a C-section, and I probably would have gone for it.
Yeah.
Knowing how big she was. But what's so funny is labor actually was my body did better with her than with my 8-pound, 1 ounce baby. So after that, I mean, in the following days in the hospital and getting home, I was telling everybody, it was like, it doesn't matter how big your baby is. It's just a matter of like allowing your body to do what it needs to do. Cause I think that's what made the difference was the doctor that delivered, like literally just did not do anything until he had to catch my baby. And it seemed like the nurses around him really respected him too. Like I don't think he was just sitting there to do nothing because he didn't want to. I think he just trusted that my body could handle it and he would intervene if he had to.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah. But yeah, postpartum with her has been definitely the smoothest. I remember so we stayed in the hospital 6:30 at night. We stayed in the hospital overnight that night. And I remember the nurses were asking me, like, do you need any ice packs or anything? And I was like, no, I actually feel fine. Like, I didn't feel like I needed to use even like the peri bottle necessarily. Like I felt pretty, maybe, I mean, like a little sore, but pretty normal.
Yeah.
After that, which was awesome. But breastfeeding was going well with her. She latched right away. She seemed to nurse well. They did have to check her blood sugar because she was so big. Mm-hmm. They checked her blood sugar a few times in the hospital just to make sure she wasn't getting a low blood sugar. And so we went home. She was a good sleeper. She was a good baby. She didn't cry a ton. But at her 2-week appointment, she hadn't reached back to her birth weight. She actually had lost a full pound from when she was born to that 2-week appointment. Which if you think about it, they do it by percents. I think like they can lose 10% of their body weight. Right. A pound for her was it was 11%.
Yeah.
So for how big she was, losing a pound wasn't that big of a deal. Yeah. Also, she was just so swollen, I think.
Yeah, because you had been on fluids for so long by the time she was born, and fluids do affect babies' birth weight.
Yes. And I think she was just holding on to water. And because like her cheeks were so chunky, and very quickly they kind of turned into like normal baby chunky cheeks instead of like these gigantic cheeks, which was kind of equally sad and cute. But yeah, we went to the 2-week appointment and she hadn't reached her birth weight. So the doctor said, well, I wouldn't supplement at this point. She's doing well. You seem like you know what you're doing, which again, completely different experience from my first, where they're like, here's what you need to do because she hasn't reached her birth weight. This doctor was like, you seem confident in what you're doing. You seem to know what you're doing. Let's just go ahead and check her again in a week. And a week later, she had barely reached her birth weight.
A pound and a week. That's pretty good.
Yeah. And well, I guess I should say, like, so she had dropped a pound. She hadn't dropped that whole pound at the 2-week appointment. So she had kind of come back up a little bit. So I think she had to gain like 7 ounces in a week. So I just fed her as much as I could, every time I could. And I remember she had a blowout right before they weighed her. And I think she maybe was like 1 ounce short of her birth weight. And I was like, I swear she just had a blowout.
Get her diaper. Let me grab it.
Weigh her with the diaper and she will be her birth weight. Yeah. So the doctor's like, I feel good about it. But yeah, postpartum with her though, I really prioritize like resting and sleeping and like laying in bed with her. And I think just letting go of the pressure of giving my kids the life that's like still normal to them. That's what I had done the first time, or with my second baby, is I was like, I need to make sure that I'm there for everything still with my first.
Right.
This time I didn't. I let other people help me. I let other people take care of her or of my other kids. And I just laid in bed with her as much as I could. And I think it was the most incredible thing. I would honestly maybe just lay in bed with her extra if I could go back. But I expected that I would still have a prolapsed uterus because I had one from before. The doctor said they don't really correct themselves usually. Usually, if that anything, it can get worse when you have more babies. But I went back and I had my 6-week appointment. My doctor didn't say anything about the prolapsed uterus. Mm-hmm. So I asked him, I'm like, hey, I don't know if you remember, but I had a prolapsed uterus last time. You said it was, moderate. How is it now? And he was like, I don't really feel like it's prolapsed at this point. It looks completely fine to me. Okay. So I have no idea how that happened. And I'm positive that I had a prolapsed uterus before because I could feel it.
Right.
Felt like a tampon was falling out of me for months. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this postpartum, like my body, I think really appreciated that I rested a lot and everything went really smoothly from there.
Yeah, it was so different. We were all so excited when you said that you didn't have the prolapse visible this time. It was like, yes, like this is what we were hoping for. Because I know we talked like prenatally about trying to push differently this time. Because the first time there was a lot with Hayden, there was a lot of like coached pushing, and we're going to push really, really hard. We're going to do all these things, which can help get a baby down. And with his heart rate being funky, that was kind of what needed to happen. But then with this time, we were kind of like, well, as long as things are going well, like let's try to do a little bit gentler pushing and figure out you didn't have any tearing and the prolapse wasn't there anymore.
Yes, exactly. Like I think the fact that like with my second, we were so rushed to get him out. And then now with my third, we were just like, it was just so casual to get her out. Like she's a baby, she's coming out. We'll just like, we're going to get her out somehow eventually. It felt better for me, but also I think my body really appreciated that too. Yeah.
That's so good. And postpartum with her was a dream. And she's just such a precious little nugget. My kids are absolutely obsessed with her. They talk about her constantly, even though y'all live, 5 states away now. But my son, even yesterday, was like, remember when Brittany had Charlotte in her belly and then she had the baby? Let's talk about that. And we had a whole conversation about you having Charlotte, which was just so funny.
Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah, she's definitely spoiled. She is... I didn't have any friends really that were having babies at the same time. So all of the older kids are like obsessed with her. She's so sweet too, though. Right now she's a big mama's girl. She's almost 8 months old actually. And it feels like it has flown by. She gets really upset right now when other people hold her. So if she can see me, she's very upset. She wants me holding her. She doesn't want to look at me. And it's funny because with my other kids, I think that I was kind of like, oh, I need to put you down. And now with her, I'm like, I need her. Let me hold her. So she's definitely she's just different. I think she's a good, like a really great addition to our family. I will say though, I didn't mention this, that we didn't find out the gender for her. We found out the gender with my other 2 kids, but we had a boy and a girl. So we decided not to. And it was so fun. If I were to have another baby, I definitely want to find out the gender again.
It was so fun. We were all taking bets.
Yes. And we had fun. We didn't tell anybody until we told our kids. So in the hospital, we had fun, like sending pictures to all of our family, except obviously, but like sending pictures of people and being like, what do you think? Because a baby, I don't know, to me, babies don't really look like a boy or a girl. Necessarily when I first
you were like, I think it's a boy. I think you kept saying when you were in labor, like, I'm pretty sure it's a boy. And your daughter, from like the very moment that you said that you were pregnant, she was like, oh, there's a baby. And also it's a girl.
Before we found out I was pregnant, like the week before, she told me, Mom, I need you to have a little sister for me. And like, I think you have a baby in your belly. And I was like, no. And then like a week later, I took a pregnancy test. I had a baby. And sure enough, it was a girl. I have no idea how she knew.
Yeah, sister's instinct. She's a little mama herself. She carries around that little girl like she's been
she puts her in the little like baby wrap. Well, not anymore. She's huge now, but she would put her in the baby wrap and like walk around with her, shushing her. Mm-hmm. She's the best helper ever. She buckles when I put the baby carrier on. She'll buckle me.
It's the best.
But yeah, it was definitely a good experience. I think it's funny. I only, after my first, I didn't want to have any more kids. after my second, I was like, I can do this. And now we were only going to have 3 kids. And now we're at the point where we're like, man, we don't know. We have no idea.
I love it.
I think 3 is our number, but there's another part of me that I think that the birth experience with her was so magical that I kind of I want to give it another shot and see if we could do it again.
I'll just fly out and camp in your basement whenever baby number 4 decides that they're coming.
That is the plan. I could not give birth without you, I don't think.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Do you want to share where people can find you or connect with you?
Yeah, I have Instagram. My Instagram is Brittany.Huber. It's BRITTANY.HUBER. That's it.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on. This was so good.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on Birth, Baby. Thanks again to Longing for Orpheus for our music. You can look him up on Spotify. Remember to leave a review, share, and follow wherever you get your podcasts. See you next week.